Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to the organisers for inviting me today. I will present in English, but I just let you know that I have colleagues in the audience who later on can answer your questions in French, Spanish, English, and I think even Welsh. Okay. What is ABCDx? ABCDx is a company set up to transform care of patients with brain injuries. We're a Swiss privately owned startup company. We're located in Geneva, but we also have a presence here in Spain, in Sevilla. We were founded in 2014, and the company has been founded on technology developed both at the University of Geneva in Switzerland and at the Vall d'Hebron Institute of Research here in Barcelona. So we're a true Spanish-Swiss company in both our personnel and our technology, and we believe and hope that we combine the best of both cultures. The founders and management of the team can be seen here. I just make the point that we combine world-class scientific research, world-class clinical expertise, but also business experience. We have business experience in the team right from the start. This is the only technical slide I will talk about today, but our goal is to transform care for patients with brain injury. That means patients that have had strokes, that means patients with traumatic brain injury, and that means patients that may have complications in hospital after suffering a brain injury. And how do we do this? Well, we interpret the chemical language of the brain. Today, you can go to hospital and have many tests that will test a single component of the brain or a single marker for the brain. That's the alphabet of the brain. What we want to do is to interpret the language of the brain. So when the brain sends out chemical messages to the body that says, I have a problem, and the problem is this, we want to be able to determine what this is. So we do multiplex blood analysis. We take one blood sample and we test a number of markers that the brain is producing. And those markers constitute a language, and from that language we can determine what problem the brain has, and thereby determine what is the best treatment to give to that patient. So, appropriate action taken quickly, completely new opportunities for therapies for patients in decentralized locations. Today, a patient with a brain injury needs to be in a hospital with scanning capabilities for diagnosis. We can offer substantial cost savings for patients that don't require care. So you have an injury on the head. Do you have a brain injury, yes or no? At the moment, if you're in a decentralized location, you may be in an ambulance or a helicopter to go to a hospital. Our tests can determine that you may not need that, and that's a massive cost saving and a reduced burden on the healthcare industry. There are three key areas that we're currently operating. These three key areas were developed by our researchers in their parent institutes, and we have patent protection filed for all of these. The detection of traumatic brain injury in patients with mild head trauma. The differentiation of ischemic, that's clot-based, and hemorrhagic, bleeding strokes, and complications that patients may experience in hospital while being treated for brain injury. We're not planning to make or manufacture or sell diagnostic products. Many of these diagnostic products are already available, but they're not used in the applications that we have developed and that we have filed our intellectual property protection for. So our strategy is to license our intellectual property to companies that have these tests, thereby increasing their sales, to license the capabilities of these diagnostics to therapeutic companies who can see a great increase in the sales of their therapeutic products. For example, today, only about 15% of ischemic stroke patients will receive a therapeutic treatment that's available today because they're not diagnosed quickly enough and they're not diagnosed accurately enough. So there's big opportunities for increased therapeutic sales through the use of our technology. We have a business strategy which allows us to generate revenue throughout our collaboration with companies, be they diagnostic companies or therapeutic companies. So our business model allows us to partner with diagnostic companies, with therapeutic companies, to do design and validation work for those companies, utilizing our unique know-how. to manage and coordinate the clinical validations and the regulatory pathway. This is a business strategy which is based on low cash input and low development risk. We're not developing new technology or new products. We have new technology that allows existing products to be used in more intelligent ways. If you look at the market today for diagnostics in the neurological field, it's about 2 billion, and it's increasing very fast. It's going to be 6.5 billion in 10 years' time. I just give you a couple of examples here. Scan-based brain injury assessment at the moment is costing 4 to 5 billion US dollars. If you replaced only 20% of this testing with biomarker panels, that's a 1 billion value just in savings. That's people that don't have serious brain injuries that today are taken to a hospital and go through a scanning procedure. I mentioned before, only 15% of eligible stroke patients receive the right therapy today. And in the US and Europe alone, you have this enormous number, 4 million days of ICU occupation for people that have had strokes. If only 50% of these patients will be monitored for 50% of their stay with the ABCDx technology, then that's a 1 million test market per year. So we have revenue potential both pre-market and post-market in terms of royalties, in terms of service revenue, and in terms of license revenues. And much of that revenue is pre-commercialization. That reduces very much the risk of investing in our company. At the bottom here, there is one model of revenue generation, but you can see we expect to be able to access significant revenue generation in a relatively short period of time for a company in the healthcare field. Our business model also includes modest costs. We're not developing products, we don't have enormous laboratories, we have intellectual property. We will encourage companies to license and use that intellectual property, and we will help them introduce that intellectual property in the market and also train the customer base how to use that intellectual property. That's the value we will offer. So we expect to be able to generate cash surplus in a relatively short period of time. We're looking at the moment for something in the region of 300,000 to 500,000 Swiss francs of seed capital, and we would expect to go to a Series A investment probably in 2018. We think there is new discovery that we can invest in as well in this area, and we think the potential 5-year valuation of the company is relatively impressive given the modest input. We also think there's a strong positive future cash flow capability to investors, which provides an earn-out without divestment.